Most men wander through life like shadows, loud on the outside, hollow within. They chase strength the way a starving wolf chases echoes, never catching what truly feeds the spirit. But Musashi once wrote that the warrior who conquers others is strong. The warrior who conquers himself is feared by the gods. And so this story begins with a restless man, unfocused, easily shaken, always fighting the world while avoiding the battlefield inside his own chest. On a cold autumn dawn, he arrives at a forgotten monastery carved into a mountainside of stone. Its gates whisper of battles fought in silence, and behind them lives an old swordsman the world believes to be a ghost, a mentor who has trained warriors through an ancient system of discipline, presence, and ego death. The student seeks power. The master offers him something far more dangerous, clarity. For clarity destroys illusions, and a man stripped of illusions has only two choices: break or transform. This is the path most men will never walk, not because it is hidden, but because the noise within them is louder than the truth calling their name. This is the Musashi Doctrine, a journey through fear, a confrontation with silence, and the forging of a spirit capable of standing alone, unshaken by the chaos of any world. Chapter 1: The Mountain of Noise. The path to the monastery curled like an ancient serpent along the mountainside, half swallowed by mist and winter wind. The young man's boots pressed into the frost-hardened soil, each step heavy with the weight of a life lived in pursuit of victories that never fed him. He had spent years chasing noise, applause, recognition, external dominance. Yet the louder the world praised him, the emptier he felt. By the time he reached the final stone stairway, his breath trembled through the cold air. The monastery walls rose above him, tall, silent, carved from the mountain itself. No banners, no guardians, no symbol of triumph, just stone, just silence, just truth. He stood before its wooden gates, expecting an initiation, a greeting, a challenge, something loud enough to match the restless storm in his chest. But the gates slid open without a sound, as if pushed by the wind itself. An old man stood there, thin, calm, unmoving. His presence felt less like a person and more like a mirror. The young man bowed slightly. "I've come for training," he declared. "I want to become strong, stronger than I've ever been." The master said nothing. He turned and began walking through the courtyard, leaving the student to follow or remain behind. The student hurried after him, irritation forming like sparks under his ribs. Inside, the courtyard was barren. No swords, no armor, no silhouettes of warriors training in unison. Only a single stone basin filled with water that reflected the morning sky. The student broke the silence. "I've won fights before. Many. I've trained under champions. I'm ready for whatever you teach." Still, the master did not answer. He knelt by the basin, dipped his hand into the water, and let droplets fall back with slow rhythm, each drop echoing louder than the student's heartbeat. Finally, the master spoke. "A loud mind," he said, "cannot wield a sharp blade." The words struck like cold steel, direct, unadorned, unarguable. The student forced a chuckle. "My mind is loud because I want greatness. I'm driven, ambitious." The master looked at him for the first time, eyes like old iron, unshaken by storms. "No," he said, "your mind is loud because you are afraid." The student stiffened. Afraid? He wanted to deny it, but something in the master's tone, unemotional, factual, silenced his pride. "You chase noise. the master continued, to drown the questions you are not yet strong enough to face. A breeze swept through the courtyard, carrying the distant beat of a temple drum. The rhythm echoed the young man's pulse, fast, uneven, chaotic. Science calls this the amygdala's cry, the primal wiring that interprets ambition as camouflage for insecurity. The ancient warriors knew this long before the textbooks. The man who boasts of strength is usually fighting weakness no one else can see. The student felt exposed, as if the master had peeled away the armor he didn't realize he wore. You came seeking power, the master said, but you cannot add strength to a vessel already full of noise. The student swallowed. So what happens now? The master rose to his feet. Now, he said, you accept the first condition. You will begin training only if you let this place strip you of every illusion you brought with you. The student hesitated. His old self, the one addicted to certainty, screamed to turn back, but a quieter voice inside, a voice he rarely listened to, whispered, "This is the path." Finally, he nodded. "I agree." The master turned toward the inner hall. "Then step inside," he said, "and begin learning the art that most men run from: silence." And so the mountain began its work on him. Chapter 2: The Ritual of Stillness. Night faded into a pale blue dawn as Ren followed Master Kayan up the narrow mountain path. The air was thinner here, cleaner, untouched by the electric noise of the village below. Each step felt like peeling away a layer of the world he once thought he needed. They climbed in silence. Not an awkward silence, a purposeful one, heavy like a teaching without words. At last they reached a plateau. A wooden gate stood there, simple yet imposing, carved with a single character, Jing, stillness. Kayan rested his palm upon it. "Before a warrior learns to move," he said, "he must learn to stop." The gate creaked open, revealing a humble temple built into the cliffside. No ornament, no color, no clutter, only stone, wood, and the quiet discipline of a life sharpened down to its essentials. Ren stepped inside. Instantly, he felt the weight of the space. An invisible pressure, like the air itself, demanded sincerity. Kayan gestured to a small mat in the center. "Sit," Ren obeyed. "Close your eyes." Ren tried, but the moment darkness filled his vision, the real noise began. Thoughts, dozens, hundreds, judgments from last night's festival, embarrassment, old regrets, future fears, flashes of anger, flashes of loneliness. Ren's heart pounded, his breath turned sharp. Kayan's voice cut through the storm like a blade. "Good. This is what you've been running from." Ren clenched his fists. "I can't silence it." Kayan walked in a slow circle around him. "No man silences the mind. That is impossible. A warrior learns something else." He stopped behind Ren and whispered, "To stop being afraid of what rises within." A heavy truth. Ren tried again, breathing deeper. The thought still screamed, but something shifted. His posture changed, his spine straightened, his breath lengthened, his awareness widened. He wasn't fighting the thought, he was witnessing them. Kayan nodded. That is stillness. Not the absence of noise, but the authority to remain unmoved by it. Minutes stretched. Sweat gathered on Ren's forehead. His legs trembled. This was harder than any physical training he had imagined. Kayan spoke again, this time with a tone that felt ancient, older than the temple, older than the mountain itself. "The mind is a river. Most men drown in it. A warrior watches from the shore." Ren swallowed. "Why does it hurt so much?" "Because you are meeting yourself for the first time." Kayan knelt beside him. You have lived your life reacting, addicted to stimulation, terrified of silence, running from feelings you never learned to hold. Ren felt the truth hit him with the force of a strike. It is not weakness, Kayan said softly. It is simply untrained spirit. Ren's breathing steadied. Kayan tapped his sternum. There is a muscle here, the muscle of presence. You have allowed it to atrophy. Now we rebuild. Chilled breeze passed through the temple, flickering a candle flame. Ren felt something happen within him. Not peace, not clarity, but a small alignment, as if his scattered pieces were beginning to gather. Kayan rose. Stillness is the first ritual. You will practice it every dawn. It will feel like dying at first because the ego fears being seen, but endure it, and you will discover the space where strength is born. Ren opened his eyes. For the first time, he noticed the world seemed sharper, colors richer, sounds clearer, the same world, but approached with a different mind. But the calm was brief. Kayan pointed to a wooden bucket in the corner. Now that your mind has tasted stillness, your body must follow. We begin the cold water discipline. Ren exhaled slowly. The real struggle was only beginning. Chapter 3. Crossing the Gate of Fear. Night fell over the mountain like a velvet shroud, swallowing the world in layers of shadow. The monastery's lanterns flickered softly, casting trembling light across the stone pathways. The student slept in his narrow chamber, breathing slow, body heavy from hours of stillness training. Then, a hand touched his shoulder. He jolted awake. The master stood over him, silhouette outlined by moonlight pouring through the doorway. Rise, the master said. The student blinked, still dazed. What's happening? Your next lesson. He grabbed his cloak and followed the master outside. The air was colder than any morning he had endured. Silence draped the monastery, but beyond its walls, down the mountain path, the forest waited like a living creature. Where are we going? The student asked. The master didn't answer. He led him down winding stone steps deeper into the night. Soon the forest loomed ahead, trees swaying like dark sentinels. Their branches clawed at the sky. The wind carried sounds impossible to decipher. Footsteps, whispers, the cracking of unseen movement. The student's pulse quickened. He felt something ancient pressing against his ribs, a tightness that had no name but one: fear. When they reached the forest edge, the master stopped and handed him a wooden sword. No instructions, no strategy, just the cold weight of responsibility in his hands. The student stared at the blade. This isn't training, he whispered. This is something else. The master finally spoke. Every man believes he is brave until he stands alone in the dark. The student's breath shuddered. You will enter the forest, the master said. Walk until dawn. Face whatever rises. You may return only when the horizon begins to glow. The student shook his head. I'm not prepared. The master looked at him with unsettling calm. Fear says that, he replied, not you. The forest groaned as if aware of its new visitor. The student involuntarily stepped back. I thought the training was about stillness. It is, the master said, but stillness means nothing if it collapses under fear. Presence must survive the dark. The student hesitated at the tree line. The shadows looked alive, stretching, curling, whispering his name. His heartbeat pounded like a drum inside his chest. What am I supposed to fight? He asked. The master shook his head. Not fight, see? See what? The master's voice was almost a whisper. Yourself. With those words, he turned and walked away, his footsteps fading into the mountain's silence, leaving the student alone. The forest exhaled a cold breath. The student clenched the wooden sword so tightly his knuckles whitened. His mind flooded with questions. What creatures lived here? Wolves? Bandits? Spirits whispered about in mountain tales? Why had the master sent him here without warning? But beneath all the questions, one truth pulsed. He wasn't afraid of the forest. He was afraid of the thoughts the forest would force him to face. Fear, the oldest teacher, the most honest one. He stepped forward. Branches scraped against each other. Leaves crackled underfoot. Somewhere in the distance, something moved, fast, unpredictable. The student's senses sharpened. His breathing became shallow. Every shadow turned into a threat, every sound into a warning. And the deeper he walked, the more he realized this wasn't a journey through the forest. This was a journey into the parts of himself he had spent his whole life avoiding. The parts masked by ambition, buried under noise, denied in the daylight. Here in the dark, there was nowhere left to run. And with every step, the gate of fear opened wider, inviting him in. Chapter 4. The Strike Without Hesitation. The morning after the forest trial arrived with a clarity the student had never felt. Dawn spilled across the courtyard like liquid gold, unveiling the monastery in a quiet, sacred glow. The air held a crisp stillness, a stillness that seemed to recognize the shift within him. He stood waiting, wooden sword in hand, the memory of the night's shadows still lingering in his bones. Not as terror, but as a reminder, he had walked through his own darkness and survived. The master emerged from the inner hall, steps slow but deliberate, as if time itself adjusted to his pace. You endured, the master said. It was not praise, it was acknowledgement, heavy, meaningful. The student bowed. I saw things, he admitted. Not outside, but inside. Fear twisting itself into shapes I didn't recognize. That is its nature, the master replied. Fear wears masks. When you learn to see the masks, fear loses its authority. They walked to the old training grounds. Faded wooden posts lined the perimeter, their surfaces carved with scars from decades of strikes. In the center lay a single training mat, worn smooth by warriors long gone. The master moved to its edge. Now your training changes, he said. The student raised the wooden sword, expecting combat stances, footwork drills, perhaps the fluid patterns of old sword schools he had read about. But the master simply stood there, hands behind his back. Strike, he commanded. The student blinked. Strike, you? Strike. He hesitated. The master did not flinch. A knot tightened in the student's stomach. Was this a test? A trap? He took a small step forward, adjusting his grip. He inhaled, preparing to swing. But something inside resisted. A voice, a hesitation, a flicker of doubt. The student lowered the blade. I can't attack without knowing the purpose. That, the master said softly, is hesitation. The student frowned. I just want to understand what you're asking. That, the master added, is ego trying to negotiate clarity before action. The student felt heat rise in his chest, anger, shame, confusion. The master continued, voice sharp as a winter wind. In battle, there is no time for the luxury of thought. Hesitation is the moment between intent and action, where fear tries to rewrite the truth. He stepped closer. Hesitation is how men die with their swords still sheathed. The student swallowed hard. The words, hit deeper than he expected. The master stepped back into position. Again, strike. The student raised the sword. His breath steadied. He tried to silence the inner noise, the questions, the fears, the calculations. He swung. The master moved with graceful ease, stepping aside before the blade reached him. But this time he nodded. "A beginning," he said. The student felt a strange mixture of relief and frustration. He wanted to be stronger, faster, precise, but his body felt slow, his mind too careful. The master circled him. "Hesitation is not simply delay," he said. "It is the fracture between who you are and who you pretend to be. It is the mind seeking permission to act." The student tightened his grip. "So how do I remove hesitation?" "By removing the reasons you hesitate." The master pointed a finger toward the student's heart. "Fear, ego, self-doubt, overthinking, attachment to outcome, desire for validation. These are the roots. Cut them and your strike becomes pure." The student felt the truth settle inside him like a deep, heavy stone. The master raised his chin. Again. The student lifted the sword, and this time he felt something he had never felt before. A thread of stillness stretching through his arms, his breath, his center. He moved. The strike was cleaner, sharper, more honest. The master dodged once more, but allowed a rare hint of approval in his gaze. "Good," he said. "Now we begin shaping your intent." The path toward mastery had opened, narrow, demanding, and unforgiving. Chapter 5: The Warrior Who Walks Alone. The final morning at the monastery came without ceremony. No drum, no chant, no whisper of farewell. Only the slow rise of dawn spilling across the stone courtyard, revealing a world unchanged, yet somehow transformed because he was transformed. The student stood at the entrance where he had once arrived, trembling with noise. His cloak rested over his shoulders, lighter than he remembered. The weight he once carried, the restless hunger, the invisible fear, the ego that demanded constant proof, felt reduced to dust. The master approached with the same quiet steps that had first unnerved him, but now that silence brought peace, not pressure. "You have learned enough here," the master said. The student's chest tightened. "Enough? I thought the training would continue." "It will," the master replied, "but not here." Confusion flickered across the student's face. The master pointed toward the winding path descending the mountain. "You will go back into the world." The words cut deeper than any blade. "You're sending me away?" "I am returning you to your life," the master said calmly. "This mountain shapes a man, but the world reveals him." The student looked down at his hands, remembering how they used to tremble. "How will I know if I'm ready?" "When life tests you," the master said, "your reactions will reveal the truth far louder than your intentions." He stepped closer, eyes firm as stone. "Stillness must survive chaos. Presence must survive noise. Discipline must survive comfort. If your training crumbles in the world, then it was never training. It was only retreat." The student breathed slowly, absorbing each word. He had learned to quiet the mind, to see his fears, to act without hesitation. But now he had to do all that without the mountain's protection. The master continued. "You wish to know the Musashi Doctrine? Then understand this." He touched the student's chest with 2 fingers. "A warrior is not made by temples or masters. A warrior is forged in the choices he makes when no one is watching." The wind drifted between them, carrying the scent of pine and distant river banks. The world below the mountain suddenly felt vast and demanding. "What am I supposed to do out there?" the student asked. "Walk," the master said. "Walk into your life not as you were, but as you have become." The student lowered his gaze. "What if the noise returns? What if I slip back into who I used to be?" The master's eyes softened, not with pity, but with understanding, sharpened by age and experience. "Then return to your breath. Return to the present. Return to the discipline you carved into your bones. Mastery is not a straight path. It is a spiral. You will revisit your fears, your weaknesses, your old self, but each time you will rise with one more layer of awareness." Silence stretched between them, this time not suffocating, but sacred. The student bowed deeply, not out of obligation, but gratitude. "You taught me how to see myself," he said. "No," the master corrected. "I showed you where to look. You chose to face what you found. That is your strength." The student stepped toward the mountain path. His heart beat steadily, neither fast nor slow, simply present. For the first time in his life, the world did not feel like an opponent waiting to test him. It felt like a stage waiting for the man he had become. He looked back at the master one last time. The master nodded, a single silent blessing, and the student began his descent. Each step carried a quiet certainty. Each breath carried a calm focus. Each moment carried the echo of the mountain's teachings. He was no longer running from himself. He was walking with himself. And ahead waited the final test of the warrior who walks alone.